Welcome back to Remembrance in Their Own Words, a limited series from the CDA Institute, Canada's premier defense and security think tank. I'm David Boris, and this is the second installment of the series. As we approach Remembrance Day, we take time to honor those who have served and to reflect on the ongoing work being done to support veterans and their families long after their time in uniform. Our guest today, Carolyn Hughes, has dedicated her entire career to that very mission. With more than 3 decades of service in both the Canadian Armed Forces and the Royal Canadian Legion, and now serving as the Director of Veterans Services at the Royal Canadian Legion, Carolyn brings a deep understanding of what it means to serve and what it takes to care for those who have. Today, we'll be talking about the enduring importance of remembrance, not just on November 11th, but on every day of the year. So, Carolyn, to begin with, could you briefly tell us where and in what capacity you served in the Canadian Forces?
Okay. Well, my background's a little bit different than some. I worked as a public servant for 10 years working for the military in CFB Petawawa Base Supply and the construction engineers. I got to a point where I couldn't advance any further where I was, and I always wanted to join. So I ended up joining the regular force in 2001. No, wait a minute. Yeah, about 2001. And I served until 2010 until I released medically. I worked as a healthcare administrator for most of my career, and I didn't get deployed, but for the most part, I worked here in Petawawa at the field hospital, training the doctors and nurses to go over to Kandahar when Afghanistan was still going on. And then I moved to Ottawa for G3 Ops, which is the operations side of things with health services. So we would monitor what was going on overseas and the after action reports.
And in your time in these varied roles, would you be willing to share one or two memorable moments from your time in the CAF?
I guess in Petawawa, it was I got put in charge of taking the media around the field hospital when it was set up in our back. And it was so realistic to see how the casualties were made up to make the whole scenario feel so real. And it kind of hit home to me at that point, I think. This is why I wanted to join, to help, to serve. This is only practice, but it was still, it hit home. For sure. My last job in the military was actually taking care of the ill and injured as they transitioned out of the military. And that was actually gave me a lot of satisfaction for helping others going through kind of what I was going through at the same time. But I had the resources. Some of them, when I took over the job, nobody had called some of them in 2 years. They had been sitting at home on sick leave and nobody was reaching out to them to see how they were doing or what you could help with, So that was very rewarding in that capacity too, right before I released.
It's interesting because you're kind of speaking about the process of reintegration, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how complex that process is. Did you find at the time that the resources for reintegration were sufficient? Or did you feel like at the time you might have been fighting an uphill battle?
My transition went fairly smoothly, but some of the things I heard about was the ability to find another job. And the only thing that I can say about my transition was when I signed up to go to the public service, because I was a priority person because of the medical release. Somebody had put me down as being part-time living outside of Ottawa. So, of course, nobody was calling me for an interview. But I ended up getting the job here, so it all worked out in the end. But with my transition, because I already had a degree, I had 2 college diplomas. It wasn't they wouldn't pay for any more education for me at that time. The only thing that I asked for was some French courses. So as being in Ottawa, you need to speak French in a lot of the positions, and they had agreed to that. But then I ended up starting to work here, so I didn't have the time to go back to school for French. So.
Do you generally look fondly back on your time in the CAP?
Some of it, yes.
Sure.
I found some of it. I joined when I was 32, and they put me on the same course as all the 19-year-olds coming out of high school. So I was a little bit like the den mother, and I kind of had to do twice as good as anybody else to kind of be accepted by the instructors and some of the tests. So, for example, push-ups. For my age group, I think I only had to do 9. I made sure I could do 30, and I still got yelled at about push-ups. So,
Oh,
yeah.
30 push-ups is impressive, I have to say. Good for you.
Yeah. I knew it was coming with the training, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good. I mean, I find it really impressive that you moved from the public service into the regular forces. I think that's an incredible, and I would say maybe an unusual transition.
Mhm.
I mean, was there
Yes.
anyone similar to your background that was moving in at the age that you were in at the time?
There was one lady who was becoming a nurse, and she had worked at a hospital, though not for the military. Her husband was military, so she was joining because she wanted her nursing degree and she wanted to work for the military as a nurse. So I believe now she's a nurse case manager
Oh, wow.
with D&D. So yeah,
And it's interesting. So you have this sort of a bit of an unusual background, and then you occupy these varied roles, and I would maybe even say roles that people are not familiar with in the CAF, right? Sort of behind the scenes. Is that maybe an accurate way to put it?
definitely. Yeah.
And so coming from that behind the scenes position, like why do you think Remembrance Day, and how does Remembrance Day echo with your experience, and why do you think it's important?
Well, of course, World War I, World War II, and Korean veterans, we honor them every year. But during some of the conflicts, since I've been an adult, I've seen what some soldiers have gone through. We were in Petawawa when the troops from the Armor Corps got posted overseas to Bosnia during the conflict. It was right before UN switched to NATO over there, and the hostages were taken in Visoko. And so I knew quite a few of those people that were taken hostage. So I've seen what they've lived through afterwards, the after effects when they came back. Back then, they didn't talk about PTSD. It was still very much you're weak, or diagnosed with depression. So things have come a long way since then, which is really good. But I like to honor those also. And during Afghanistan, there was 4 or 5 people I know that were killed overseas. So it touches home. The first time that it happens and you know somebody that's happened to, it's not like it's World War II where maybe somebody's great-grandparent or grandparent, was killed in the war. It hits home because it's somebody your age and, somebody that you know personally. So I like to always think about those that I knew that passed away too. When you have the moment of silence, that's what I'm usually thinking about.
That's really well said. Could you comment on the current state of the Canadian defense environment and why it's important for the nation to maintain a strong defensive posture?
I haven't been involved in this much. We have committees here at the Legion. So for a while, I was on the Defense and Security Committee, and we would make recommendations to the Minister of National Defense on things that we saw for the morale and welfare of soldiers. And one thing has always been equipment. The equipment needs to be updated in a lot of cases, as well as airplanes, aircraft, submarines, all of that. In my opinion, and I'm not in defense anymore, but in my opinion, it's been let go too long. I have injuries from carrying equipment that was made for a male soldier, and I'm 5'2" and a woman. So a lot of women like me, not only just the men, but women also sustained injuries, and it took less time. So an infantry soldier, wear and tear from marching, carrying a rucksack on your back, it's about 60 pounds. So compared to somebody who's 6'3" and somebody's 5'2", and that could be, I know some women who were tall and strong too, but the equipment wasn't adjustable enough. So that's one thing. The contracts for aircraft and submarines, it's too political. Like, we need it now. We can't wait another 5 years. Maybe a different prime minister will cancel it. We need it now. We need it now, especially up north with the ice melting. It's a big concern with a lot of people. That and cyber security. Those are the 2 big things I hear about a lot.
Carolyn Hughes, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to have a pint at my local Legion in your honor on November 11th. So thank you.
Unless they have an OSI special section coffee break or up Buddyville. Yeah. So that
Okay, I will.
peer support they do. Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for recommending. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. That's all for today. If you want to learn more about the CDA Institute, follow us on social media, visit our website at cdainstitute.ca, or subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates on Canadian defense and international security. If you have comments or feedback about what you heard in today's edition, email our hardworking director, Josh, at josh@cdainstitute.ca. I'm David Boris. Until next time.